I was rethinking actually my title, not all the light we cannot see, but all the light we can see, because it was really a lot of good stuff and care, which I could hear about children and about parents, about family. And actually, when I was thinking about the light, which sometimes disappears, particularly for parents when they experience despair or neglect or abuse, or they are in a very rough situation, this light sometimes disappears. And for children, it's very important actually when they feel loved. And there is one book, Susan Gerhardt, which called the title is "Why Love Matters." How relationship shapes our brain, and this book is important not in the only in the title, but also it shows how relationship shapes our brain, shapes our understanding of ourselves, of others, what we expect from the world, and so on. So this relationship which gives loves help us to accept ourselves, feel competent, feel positive, more positive about the world, and so on. But it is not so easy during rough time. It is not so easy during, particularly during war, which shatters actually our safety, our safe harbor, and how to stay this lighthouse, how to stay reflective, empathic, and open to the relationship during this difficult time. I will address this little bit in this presentation. So in this presentation, first I will talk a little bit about how war shapes parenting and what kind of challenges we can see and talk about them. About Lighthouse program, which is created by Jerry Byrne from UK, and now we are adapting this program in Lithuania, and maybe you will find some ideas which could use, or maybe you will try to use this program in Ukraine. You will see how it's up to you, but you can choose. So, and also I would address a little bit how this reflective parenting could be helpful in a situation of trauma experience, particularly when children experience traumatic events. So from the beginning, war actually exposes all people, not only children, but all who experience this to extreme dangers and traumatic experiences. And researchers show some maladjustment because children lose their safety and experience profound helplessness. What usually children experience during war, they lose their home, they loses their friends, sometimes they experience abuse of their family, they need to run away or hide, and it is really direct impact of shattering the safety. But also war it puts enormous pressure on parents as well, and parents while they are trying to protect their children, experience huge tension. And sometimes when we try to reflect, for example, how do I feel, how the child is feeling, it's a challenge. But when stress comes, our brain cortex is blocked, and it's very difficult to think, though the situation requires, sometimes people say that triple processing, because in a stress situation, in a war situation, we need to understand how do I feel, how the child is feeling, and what is going on in general situation, what is going on, how to protect ourselves, or how to find this safe harbor again. So the pressure is enormous, and then of course parents usually feel lost, and they experience also helplessness, and during that process they forget their strengths and that they can really be very important and helpful for their children. So there is a question how parenting is changing during war. What some researchers has found that during dangerous situation, what we can observe that there is overprotection, and it is normal in a dangerous situation. It is normal to look for safety, for physical safety, for emotional safety for children. Though when these situations are starts to lessen, this overprotection continues. And for children, it could be quite challenging to find their autonomy, to find what they want, to understand how they feel, because parents start to be restrict their behavior because of their own anxiety and fear. During displacement, when families changes they loses homes and they need to find new way of living, it is also a huge stress. And some researchers show that parents stress a lot on physical, and it is normal because physical safety is a base, but it takes so much energy that some warmth in a relationship could be reduced, and parents quite often start to see demands, emotional demands of their children as overwhelming, that it is too much. I already did so much, I cannot continue anymore, and a lot of despair can arise. Of course, if parents experience some traumatic events, they usually have depression or PTSD symptoms, and that leads to less sensitivity and even hostility. Though some researchers show that the most damaging experiences is the rape experience, which really damages parents in a how they see themselves, and then it is very difficult for parents to stay emotionally available for children, and sometimes even warm relationship from the child can be as a trigger that I cannot take it anymore. I can open myself to warm experience because it means that I could be damaged again. So war and huge stress affects parental self-efficacy, how they understand themselves. Though I should mention that stress, as Oksana also mentioned in her presentation, that really war can uncover not only weaknesses or powerlessness. War can uncover strength and resilience in families as well. Particularly in a loss situation, a lot of compassion and warmth can come, and support. People learn to support each other and to stay open to each other. So we need to understand that during war, not only how long events last affect parental attitudes to themselves and to the children, but also what kind of experience families had plays a vital role for parenting. And what it is important to give back a sense that parents are important, because as Peter Fonagy, who created theory of mentalization theory, developed mentalization theory, he says that parents actually are the best therapists for their children. And it is important to give back power to parents and to remind them that their relationship, warm relationship, is a healing relationship for the child. warmth and safety is healing the child, but when the child gets this warmth and safety from parents, it's like the best remedy the child could get in a very dangerous situation. So little bit about mentalization, because Lighthouse parenting program is based on mentalization. So mentalization is a parental capacity to see oneself from outside, how my reactions, how my feelings, thoughts could be understood by others, and to see others from inside, their feelings, needs, goals, motives, and thoughts. And it is very important actually moment, because even Daniel Stern said that in therapy the moments of meeting are the most healing moments, which could help find the own resource for the child, his or her own resources, and to continue grow up in a healthy way. So sometimes we could hear that loneliness kills and relationship heals, but it is important to understand what kind of relationship heals. And mentalization emphasizes that we need to stop doing something and start to pay attention, to listen to try to understand what the child is telling us, even though he is not talking. Maybe he's doing something, maybe he is repeating something. And it is important not to react immediately and stop a little bit, like a pause, and try to see the child, how he's feeling, why he's doing that, what he's experiencing. Because for the child to feel that he is seen is the most important thing. Otherwise, he feels all the time that I'm not good, I need to be better, I need to be better. And this leads to the feeling that I'm not worthy of the love, of safety, and this leads to really damaged self-esteem. So it seems very easy to see capacity of mentalizing, but at the same time, it's not so easy in a real relationship, because usually it's said that we mentalize only 15 or 20% of our relationship. And if we put an effort, and we can increase it to 30%, it's very, very huge amount of effort to see other in relationship, and it could be very healing. I will mention a little before I will go to this Lighthouse program. I will mention several principles of all mentalization-based groups of reflective parenting. There are 5 most important things which are addressed during all the reflective parenting programs. We need to understand that we always modeling reflectiveness. It's not capacity we could learn from explaining. We should experience it by ourselves. We should experience that we are seen. When I remember that I have been seen, then it is easier for me to give that to see others as well. Sometimes this modeling could be that we talk about children and try to give voice for their experience. For example, why he's doing that? Maybe he wants to show you something, what he would like to show. Maybe he wants to share something with you. For example, he wants to go closer to you, or maybe he wants to experience how to be a parent now. We give some voice to children's behavior and help parents to develop their reflective capacity in order to mirror the child in a not scaring way. Because sometimes parents understand what is going on, but they mirror in a devaluating way. And it is very important to create a relationship where we can give back our what we understand, our reflection in a not scary way. Also, it is very important stance, a knowing stance, that we don't know actually 100%. We never know what the other is thinking. And this does not lead to the position that I'm unworthy. No, this lead to the position that I'm curious. What is going on? Maybe you are this, maybe it, and this maybe is important because this facilitates thinking about feeling and feeling about thinking, to explore in a world, even though we sometimes sure what the child could feel. It's important to give a possibility for the child to explore through themselves their inner world, not only outer world to explore, but also to create conditions to explore their inner world. And this curiosity and not knowing stance helps for the child explore his inner world and create his own identity. Also, emotional situations are very important because when some situations brings emotions, we are open up and we lose our like protective shield that I know always what to do. I know how to raise children, because parents usually, even though they say they know, usually what they feel that there are so many recommendations, so many advices, but what to do the best in this situation, it's not clear. And how to feel what is the best for the child in this situation, and how I feel in this situation, maybe lost, maybe stressed, maybe disappointed. Sometimes in a group, parents who start develop their reflectivity and tries to understand their children, sometimes they come and say, you know, I'm disappointed in myself because I was trying to do to see my child, and when stress came, I started to shout on the child. Child asked me for advice, and I was so stressed that I started to shout on him, and it is so shameful that I'm lost. I cannot help him anymore. And what we create during this group, we create safe place to share this feeling, how to be a parent and not to be ideal parent, but to be good enough. Because if you feel ashamed, you care about your child, and these mistakes could be repaired. And the safe attachment is not only about that there is no conflict and we always know how to react correct, but safe attachment is about the possibility to repair relationship, how I come back to the relationship and repair it, how I um, address the conflict, how I say, I'm sorry because I really was not like my usual self. Maybe you need help, you still need my help. And when parents share their emotional situations, it gives good opportunity to revise it and to contain the emotion, and this leads to better emotional regulation. So in a group, we always hold parent in mind. When we talk with parent, we want them to understand their children, but first we need to address how the parent is feeling, to hold the parent in mind. And then, of course, there are different parents at a different level how they can reflect their children. Some of them, they can only reflect on physical stance. He was crying. I don't know how he was feeling, for example, just he was crying. Maybe he's pretending. Sometimes we can see a huge disbelief about inner world. And actually, what I liked, the quotation of Jung, which I liked a lot, he was saying, inner world is real. And in mentalization-based programs, also we addressed that inner world is real, and we can imagine or we can try to exploit. But always we start from the situation parent can hold in their mind, because war touches not only people who were before reflecting. War touches also people who had huge trauma before or experienced disorganized attachment insecurities. And of course, this additional stress doesn't give resources. It really challenges their capacities to function. So we always meet the parent at the level they are at the moment. So a little bit about this Lighthouse program. Lighthouse program, as I mentioned, Gary Byrne, he created this program, and now this program is developed by Anna Freud Center. They are working on that. But what I like that this program actually uses metaphors. Usually metaphors, I like metaphors and images because maybe because I'm Jungian in my core, because the images goes deeper than words. Images are first than words. And in this program, it is usually created like 24 group sessions for parents, and is combined with individual sessions before the group, during the group, and after the group. There is individual meeting with parents, and 24 session. And there is a shorter version of this program, 12 sessions, which we use in Lithuania. And each group like touches one of the metaphor, or sometimes combines metaphors, and tries parents to see themselves parenting as lighthouse, because lighthouse is a light which leads a child to a safe harbor, to a place where he can explore, play, understand, meet friends, and so on. But also there are some moods, there are some situations which are not easy, but they are normal in our daily life, which could be, which should be, or maybe important to understand, recognize, and some metaphors helps to recognize them. There are several of them. For example, rough sea, when a child experiences anxiety, when he doesn't know what to do, when he disbelieves in something, when he cannot find the way to the harbor, then the parent could, for the parent, is important to calm down the child, to see him, to go to his level, and try to reduce this anxiety. But there are also different other stuff. For example, ship battle, when the child rivals with others, when he starts to go to the conflict, when he starts to take his place in a very rough way. And then usually parents starts to blame the child. He's always like this. And this is not mentalizing stance. When we start to say he's always like this, we should understand that we are not mentalizing anymore. The mentalizing stance of what is going on, what do you feel? So mentalizing stance is the way that we try to understand what is behind the behavior. Also, we can have piracy, when the child does not believe, for example, that he is worthy, or he could get his attention. So he starts to get this attention, or requires in a piracy way. He does not quite good stuff, what usually parents dislike, and then he gets negative reactions from parents. But usually behind that, there are some needs which should be recognized. For example, for me, it seems very important to address this rafting state. Sometimes parents see their children that they don't need them, that everything is good with them. He's doing everything, and he's not just talking. He doesn't need any relationship. But this situation usually shows the child stopped expecting relationship, stopped even expecting that someone he is important, and started to rely on himself. Usually it describes as avoidant attachment, that if I want to feel safe, I don't need to rely on anyone. And also sometimes about this night stuff, that particularly during war and during stressful situations, nights are not very calm time, because our brain tries to consolidate memory and reestablish emotional regulation, and brings up emotional stuff which is not very easy. And it could be the child experience difficulties with sleeping, and it could be very important to talk with parents how to reflect and how to show for the child that we see him, we are with him, to establish safety and structure, which routine and structure which is important for the healing. So when the parent is reflecting the child experience is seen. And in this program, it's called Illuminating Beam, that through my eyes and through my relationship with my child, I illuminate his inner world, and this inner world can bloom. But of course, if the parent experienced trauma, he cannot reflect, he cannot be illuminating lighthouse. Then something blocks in our brain, and of course we show that to the child in the relationship. When the child feels ashamed, when he feels rejected, and he cannot come openly into the relationship. So the parents during this program, they are encouraged to explore themselves as well. What kind of inner rooms I have? These inner rooms, like our experiences. Some experiences are very bad, which we want to block and never remember, but they are affecting our life. They're affecting our relationship, and they're affecting our relationship with children. So through exploration of our inner rooms, we can start to be more open to the child, because some rooms are very pleasant and we want to invite children to them, but some rooms are very closed, and sometimes we even forget that we have these rooms. We just sometimes we notice that our body started to react with tension, and we block ourselves in a relationship with the child. And it is important to ask ourselves what this could trigger in our experience. And if something triggers our experience, our emotional thermometer becomes like too hot, then we become like, oh my God, I will start to shout now. It's good if I think before that. Sometimes we just start to shout, and then we realize that I'm in a place where I swear to never be like my parents or others, but I find myself in the place that I act out on my child. And usually our brain tricks us when we are experiencing huge emotions. We think that we need to react, but actually this situation is that we need to stop to react when we feel so much emotions. We need to calm down. And then we need to react and talk with child only when we are in the middle, when we can process our emotions or process the emotions of the child, or could hear what he or she could tell us. Otherwise, we would react like this: I don't care. You should do this. I don't care. Because it's a projecting beam. It's not illuminating stance or beam, but projecting beam. For the child to feel seen, it's very important to experience that we are attentive, that we could or try to understand his perspective, which is quite different from ours, and we can show empathy. Even though we disagree with something, but we can show empathy. That for the child, it could be very scary something. For example, once my child was behaving very badly. He was beating everything and shouting, and I was thinking about myself as a loser, a psychologist or whatever, because I couldn't manage and it didn't work anything. But during evening, he was 4 at the time. During evening, we stayed in a bed and we did our usually routine. And he started to say, you know, I did something wrong today. And what have you done? It was a curiosity. He said, I pushed my friend and he fell and he was bleeding. And I was thinking, oh my God, teacher will call me. What I will do? He is really not empathic. But I said, stop it, stop it. He's sharing with you. And maybe he's feeling something. And what I said, I stopped with all these moralistic ideas and said, probably you were scared. And you could imagine how he reacted. Yes, yes, even started to cry, because when you feel that you are seen, your emotions can come in a safe way. And what he was repeating, that I just want to be like you. I just want to be like you, because he felt seen and understood, and it worked. Nothing more, not a moralistic. He understood himself that something wrong happened. But in the same way, he understood that did something wrong, and it was very, very painful. So even when we are doing something wrong, it's very important to find a safe harbor where we can talk about it, where these inner wolves could not be so scary, because otherwise we act out them on others. Or project on our children as well. And if parents experience, and I'm sure that we all have our own experience of some stressful or terrifying relationships, so it's very easy to trigger that in a relationship with child, and to project when the child, for example, shouts on children shouts or rival with each other, or they rafting or not showing that they are interested. It's very easy to project what they are feeling. So during this program, we talking with different situations and trying to recognize what the child is feeling, and maybe it reminds us, for example, something. And when the child is traumatized, for example, experience something really bad during war, his reactions could be even stronger. And what is important for parents to understand, to tell the child that about post-traumatic reactions, that these reactions are normal reactions in not normal situation, and sometimes helps children to compare that, soldiers experience that when they need to do something important and they scared, but they still need to do good things. It helps them to see themselves in a positive way, to grow their inner warrior or soldier, and to understand, to accept their feelings as normal, thoughts and feelings as normal. So what the parents during these traumatic situations could do to stay as illuminating beam, as a safe harbor, who leads a child, even he's misbehaving, to this safe harbor, and contains emotion, comforts child by establishing routine, which is safe for the child, and creates a narrative of the story, creates, for example, through pictures, and I think for the child, play and picture painting their speech, how they can express themselves. And through helping children, parents actually heal themselves and their attachment needs and their traumas, because actually the greatest challenge is to witness injustice of the world, but not allow it consume our life. And through helping children, we are helping ourselves. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Дякую. Дякую. Дякую дуже, Аста, за доповідь. І так багато думок промінуло, поки я слухала. І я зразу думала про наших батьків. І у мене от перше питання з'явилося, з яким ви досвідом стикнулися, як батьки відгукуються на цю програму, як вони в неї заходять, як вони почуваються на початку програми, що з ними от відбувається, да? Бувають ли ситуації супротиву, да? Чи якоїсь такої недовіри?
Yeah. This resistance is really normal stuff, because why we should trust anyone? Because we experience that people disappoint us, and sometimes even those who need to protect us disappointing us. And usually parents go through a lot of programs, and what they feel that they are always taught how to do right, and what they feel that they always don't manage to do the right stuff. So usually this program starts from individual interview, where we try to talk with them in a very empathic and in a very understanding way, even though the situation is very difficult, for example. But the main purpose is to establish epistemic trust, the trust which is the basis that we can learn from each other. When we trust each other, I can take knowledge from you, for example, as mine. If I don't trust, yes, I can learn, but I don't feel that this knowledge are mine. So during this interview, we talk about how they can describe their children, how they think, how children see them as parents. And usually parents react like this: I've never thought actually how the child sees me as a parent. I always was thinking how I should be, what kind of parent I should be, but I never thought how child experiencing me. And it's very also when we were doing this group in spring, we had such reactions like, we don't understand what is going on in the group. We are talking, it's something important, we don't understand what is going on. But the strange thing that we start to feel more love for our children, and we start to feel that children love us more back. So we never, we don't understand, like we don't learn exact reactions or exact words. Sometimes parents require, you need to tell us how to talk with the child. But it's you take a rule, you bring without emotion, and it doesn't work. You have the right method, and you don't reflect how it works with you, and this very fine method doesn't work. And reflective functioning, developing reflective functioning is like developing the sense when to say something, then it's working. So parents usually, they are really resist. Sometimes, though, it is not the easy way to start reflect, because some parents in our group said that uh, we had a lot of expectations in the beginning, but in the middle we started to be disappointed because we don't have rules or recommendations, exact recommendations, and sometimes we start to feel pain. And it happens during psychological therapy because dissociation helps not to feel pain. It protects, but it in a long term it really blocks consolidation of identity and a real authentic relationship. Then we just require from each other, but we do not connect. Then I shout on the child that he needs to do something, but I do not connect with the child. So dissociation protects myself from the pain and some parents from pain, but in a long-term relationship, it is a disaster, and it's like an accident. And then they start to blame the child that he externalizes or misbehaves and so on. But the child has no opportunity to understand what is going on with his inner world, and then he acts out. So sometimes parents experience these painful emotions, and it is important to address themselves also individually. If, for example, we had one pair, they had huge difficulties with 9-year-old child. The mother and stepfather, they were together, and it was very disgusting divorce. And the child felt really damaged and really not worthy. And he was misbehaving, and he had actually also learning difficulties. So it was easier to blame him that he's lazy, he's misbehaving, and so on. And during this program, we started to talk. So, but can you imagine how it is for your child to feel loss of the father, for example, these changes, how he reacts, how he does feel when he does not achieve, for example, something at school, and he's afraid to tell you about that, ashamed to tell you about that. And it was like they started to say, "Oh, we don't," and it was little by little, not in the beginning, but they started to feel a lot of pain and said, "We don't want to come here because before it was bad, now it is painful." And then it is very, very important to talk with them individually, and sometimes even to find individual therapy for them, or family therapy for them as additional. But this program showed what is going on. That it is not the child which is bad, because it's very easy when it's painful and dissociation works. It's very easy to see the child as bad. He's good or bad, but children are not good or bad, they are complex. And how to address this complexity in a flexible way, it is a challenge of the relationship and also in our work. But usually after the program, we say, it's something very different, actually, what we experience, some kind of therapy. We don't understand what is going on, but we feel connection.
Дякую, дякую, Аста. І ще одне питання, да, і будемо завершувати. Оля, будь ласка.
Я дуже вдячна вам за форму, за метафору, за образи, які є в вашій програмі. Поки я чула вас, я раділа, що батьки, про яких ви говорите, дуже схожі на наших українських батьків. І багато процесів, які ви описували, вони дуже-дуже схожі. Але та кількість тепла, яку я почула під час того, як бачила я вашу презентацію, де очі в очі, да, де щось там квітне, де сяє маяк, це наскільки надихаюче, що просто дуже великі емоції, і я розумію, що це саме той шлях, який нам допоможе. Коли ми розробляли з Оксаною, теж у нас були тренінги, багато роботи з батьками, щось схоже ми по суті робили щось схоже, але форма ну просто така надихаюча і така, мені здається, полегшуюча цей процес, що коротше, треба вчитися, втілювати, і я сподіваюся, що ми зможемо, да? Оксана, зможемо?
Да, я от вже бачу, що є питання і в чаті про програму, да, щоб більше про неї дізнатися, навчатися, да, ну, тобто, можливо, ми далі продовжимо наше спілкування і співпрацю, і більш так ретельно заглибимося в цю програму, будемо тримати в курсі книги.
Але насправді я можу, тоді моє питання, я не знаю, наскільки можна відповісти на нього, наскільки співпадає та реальність, як колега працює. Для нас завжди була велика проблема в тому, щоб саме залучити батьків. Да, тобто ми можемо мати дуже класні інструменти, але дуже важко залучити батьків, особливо залучити до групової роботи. І в нашій роботі нам доводилося такі там чудеса еквілібристики придумувати, щоб тільки забезпечити зустріч. От коли перша зустріч сталася і маяк засяяв, то вже воно пішло далі. А от про залучення саме. Чи можете ви щось прокоментувати про саме те, як ви залучаєте батьків?
In our situation, it was open because some parents were recommended by child right protecting services that they need to go to the program because they were under pressure. But when the parents are under pressure, they usually experience bigger resistance because it seems like they want us to do something and it's against us. And if we talk openly what is going on, for example, between me and my child, they for sure take the child from the family. And some parents, they are really afraid of that. So, but usually what really is helpful, then these individual meetings, not to start immediately with the group, but with individual talk. And of course, always will be parents who will reject, but it's like a seed. We put a seed and try to trade it. And if we wait a little bit, sometimes it starts to grow. So what we say for the parents, that it is important to give a try. It may not work and you can throw this program as all programs you experienced before. But maybe you can give a try, and then you will be sure that this is not working. And if it's work, it will start work. Then you will get something, and for your child it will be better. So it's usually like give a try. Of course, there are some parents who are not reflecting very well. We did one research and they started to describe that they don't have time for their child. It was like I was reading 90 interviews of parents, and what I was surprised that the repeating pattern, I don't have time for my child. And I think it's a constellation of some traumatic experience, because it's like I don't want the time for these painful experiences anymore. For my inner child, for my inner feelings, for disappointment, I want to block and go somewhere to more safer place. So probably we can address that, you know, it will be a challenge, but we will try to create a safe place. And when we try to meet a parent, if you will feel that something is wrong, you can stop it. We will talk about it. We give some possibility to say stop, to control the process. It's important.